Okay, and we're live. Developing a spiritual practice to accelerate your path. Welcome, everybody. This should be about an hour, maybe a little less. Although knowing my talking, it could be a little more. And so I just want to thank you all for coming. We're going to be talking about this subject matter, and then I'll have a time for questions and whatnot at the end. So feel free to save up your questions. But if you have something along the way, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask if you can, or pop it in the chat box. If there is a hand raising feature, but because there's so many people here, I don't know if I will see everyone's hands while we're in this view. So feel free to like pop it in the chat box, I'd like to speak. If you raise your hand physically, I might not see you because I can't see everyone at the moment. So yeah, just unmute yourself and say, hey, I have a question or whatever, and let me know and pop in, okay? So introduction for this. Who am I and why am I teaching this? Okay, so first of all, I am Paula Santra. You'll find me online as Healer Paula. There will be a website soon at healerpaula.com. And I have been a spiritual teacher and shamanic practitioner for about 3 years now. And I'm teaching this class because of the reasons that I had on here, which I will share. One, I've been on a spiritual path for, what you can call a spiritual path for about 7 or 8 years now. It's 2012, end of 2012, when a lot of strange things started happening to me, although not that strange for what I was looking into and asking for. However, when that took place, I had a massive, avid desire to understand life and the mysteries, and really started to find out that there's all these like really cool secret things that I didn't know about, and I was like super adamant and avidly wanting to learn more. I really wanted to uncover hidden gifts and discover my special abilities in myself, because I heard that was a thing. I heard you could like know yourself and you could love yourself, and it would like bring a lot of cool things in life. And I was very, very impatient, excited, and curious, and maybe just a bit demanding. Like, yeah, I want this now. I need this now, right? And so, the idea of accelerating my path was really appealing to me. And so I did put that in the title of this because I do understand that need and desire. Now, I did meet a teacher about 2.5 years in. I ended up working with a shaman. I've been working with him for 5 years, and he literally has been the answer to that request. It took me 2.5 years to actually manifest having that teacher. But what I learned from the experience of not having one to having one is it was like night and day of the ability to accelerate my growth and accelerate my path. So I thought I would share with you guys some of the things about having a spiritual practice, because before that I didn't really know what a spiritual practice was. I was avoiding it completely. Then I was dabbling in this and that and the other thing, and using the internet and little classes here and there and dabbling with different things. And so finally coming into an understanding of what I could do as a practice to actually improve my growth and have a direction rather than bouncing around everywhere. So this webinar is just to help you kind of get an idea, a sense of that. Some of you who've already worked with me, it might make sense already. Some of you who've been coming to my weekly classes and whatnot, this might make sense, but I'm hoping to give you at least some new information today in case it's something you really haven't heard me say before in quite this way. So hopefully it's got something new and useful for everyone. Okay. So the question I would have, and like when in the beginning I had this kind of question with all of the spirituality out there, all of these spiritual words, I was like, what does that even mean? I don't understand. And there was nowhere to find out what things meant, because everything was using language as if you'd been in the New Age or the spiritual community for a long time. And, I try to figure out what people meant by like, breathe and go within, or, integration, and, love and light, and, all these different things. Like, I didn't know what they meant. I wanted it. I knew I wanted it, but I didn't know what they meant. So how do you practice something? How do you have a spiritual practice and practice something so vague as the idea of spirituality? What is spirituality, right? So some of the stuff I've learned along the way is the myths of spiritual practice that I picked up along the way. Saying love and light or namaste at every turn is not a spiritual practice, although people who have a spiritual practice will do that. But it is not itself the spiritual practice, right? Having lots of spiritual objects is not the spiritual practice. And I did collect a lot of crystals and sage, and I went to the shops and picked out the things, and I was like, now I'm spiritual, right? Now I've got it. I'm part of the club, right? I even, like, one of my first quests with my team, and you guys understand, like, we went on the quest with the team. One of my first serious quests is I wanted to understand what namaste meant. I was like, everyone who's spiritual says namaste, and I don't know what it means. And so I was like asking and asking. Of course, I didn't Google it. I don't know why I didn't Google it, but I was asking. And one day I got the answer. And then I decided to Google it to see if I was right. I don't know why I didn't Google it before, but I Googled it to see if I was right. And sure enough, it was almost word for word what I was told from my team. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess I can start getting my answers, right? So, so being perfectly positive is not a spiritual practice. That desire to be like this perfect spiritual being. I need to do all the spiritual things. I need to act all the spiritual ways. So that was the thing I got into, where I was like trying to be the spiritual person and talking the spiritual words and energy this and energy that, and manifest this and manifest that. No, those are side effects of a spiritual practice in general. So I'm not saying if you do these things, you're not having a spiritual practice. What I'm saying is they are themselves not the spiritual practice. So what I learned is, as a side effect of the more I do this work, the more energy and manifesting and words like that come out of my language naturally, because that's the world that I'm operating in now. But in the beginning, trying to, learn about like, oh, you're not supposed to say negative things and you're supposed to be positive, and trying to follow that and then call myself spiritual, it wasn't the spiritual practice in itself. And denying that you have thoughts. Like, I was so lost on this one, guys. I was supposed to meditate and get rid of my thoughts. That was something I'd been given advice on, and I was like, okay, I'm supposed to be in this thoughtless state and meditate, and that's what's spiritual. And I didn't even understand what meditation was. And I didn't, like, it seems like some vague thing that you're supposed to get, and you're supposed to sit perfect and have no thoughts and whatnot. And it in and of itself is not a spiritual practice. And so I didn't actually understand what a spiritual practice is and how these things actually fit into the picture. So I wanted to share with you guys some of that journey and help you guys out, because if you're doing any of these things and you're still going, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? I don't know if I'm actually getting anywhere with this. And that's the key. That's the key, is, are you getting somewhere with it? Is it taking you on a journey that makes sense? Or is it just kind of keeping you busy and feeling a little better here and there, but you don't really know what you're doing? And that's what we want to get, is we want to get this kind of reined in into some kind of something where we have a purpose. We know what we're doing and we're aiming for that. So spiritual practice helps you heal. It helps you grow. It helps you deepen your relationship to yourself, and helps you deepen your relationship to everything else. Okay? That's what a spiritual practice does. If you look at these things, somebody who has healing, somebody who has growth, somebody who deepens their relationships to themselves and to everything else, might do these behaviors. It can very much be a part of your spiritual path. But there are also many other activities that can help you heal, help you grow, and help you deepen your relationship to yourself and everything else. And you don't necessarily need any spiritual objects to do that. You don't necessarily need to be somebody who's making sure you say the proper love and light and namaste to do that. These things are not required to have a spiritual practice. So we want to look at what can we incorporate in as a spiritual practice where we can foster our own healing, foster our own growth, and deepen our relationship to ourselves and everything else. And it's called a spiritual practice for a reason. It's ongoing. We continually practice it. We continually get better and better. It's not a one-time thing where we, oh, I sat down with myself and I had this massive healing today. I got this huge insight and now I am done. I am born again. I'm new and it's, this is it. I've made it. There is always more. There's always more. It's ongoing practice. You've made it to where you've made it to. You've gotten back what you've gotten back. And now there's more. You take what you've gotten and you continue to find more with that newfound power, that newfound part of yourself. You bring it on the journey with you and you involve it in your spiritual practice going forward, and you see how your practice evolves and changes and grows over time as you heal and grow and change over time. Which means that the more you do spiritual practice and the more you retrieve parts of yourself, the more you have available to continue your practice, which means as you do spiritual practice, you are, in fact, accelerating your growth because now more of you is available to do more spiritual practice. So I hope that's making some sense to you guys. So what is spiritual practice? A better question might be, what isn't a spiritual practice? It isn't an activity, but an approach, intention, and awareness behind it that brings us to spiritual practice. Any activity we do with intention and awareness, any and every activity, any and every experience and event in our life can be a spiritual practice if we are bringing the proper intention and awareness to that event. Our spirituality does not have to be separate and apart from our actual physical life. They are connected. It's all connected. So if you are brushing your teeth and you are aware of the relationship with brushing your teeth and aware of how you decide to brush your teeth and aware of how that affects everything in your life, and every day you're aware of the decision to do that versus not do that, right? And if you're doing that while, exploring and learning, and suddenly you get an insight about yourself, okay, that's a spiritual practice. Yes, brushing your teeth can be a spiritual practice. If you are feeding your dog or your cat and you are doing it with intention and awareness and have the opportunity to get an insight, to grow, to heal, to have a deeper relationship with your animal or the food that you're feeding the animal, and you get an insight about that food or whatever, that is a spiritual practice. Is this making some sense, guys? Is this making some sense? The idea that we have to separate life from spiritual practice and we have to go somewhere and wear the right clothes and do the right behaviors and say the right things to be spiritual is false. It's what we bring to it. All of those things can be spiritual if we are saying namaste and love and light to people, and we are having intention and awareness about what we are doing, and we are open to receiving the insight from that. It is a spiritual practice. And something that we do without intention and awareness can be inadvertently a spiritual practice, although it's not practice per se, but every moment of life we have the opportunity to learn. We're interacting and experiencing things every moment of life. So anything and everything we do, we can get an insight from and grow from. So we are spiritual beings already. We don't have to work to earn the label or the title. But developing an actual conscious spiritual practice is part of that, accelerating that path and giving it an aim so that we can go where we want to go with it. But I want you guys to recognize there's no need to look at yourself and judge the path or the practice that you have so far, because you've always been leading. You're here today for a reason, right? So you've always done something that's led you somewhere, that's gotten you closer and closer to the spirituality you want, or you wouldn't even be here today, because you're seeking a spiritual practice of some kind. So how often should I practice spirituality to accelerate my growth, right? So if it's not about like having some kind of special practice, or how do I do that? What does that look like? Setting aside time intentionally to spend with yourself, and do that, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through, let's say you go for a walk every day and you commune with nature, and that's your spiritual practice. That's your opportunity to get your insights, to grow, to heal, to feel better, like all of that. And that's your, how often should you do this is going to be dependent upon each individual. But I want to emphasize it's about quality practice, not quantity. If you are busy and you don't have time to take an hour a day to do a morning meditation and an hour a night to do a morning meditation, which, I actually, love doing a morning practice and an evening practice. I think if you're going to get started, that's a really good time to get started, right? A little bit of time in the morning, a little bit of time in the evening, just to collect yourself and spend time with yourself and review everything going on with yourself. Start of the day, reviewing what's going on for the day. End of the day, reviewing what went on for the day. And looking at, maybe once a week, looking at your whole week or your whole month, and just spending time with yourself, and recognizing who did you interact with, what went on today, what lessons did you get, what changes have you gone through, what growth have you made, what relationships are you struggling with, which relationships are working well, what do you want to make different, what are you trying to change. It's just an awareness kind of thing. But not everyone has that kind of time, and that's okay. Recognize that you can turn anything into at least some kind of semblance of a spiritual practice and having contact with yourself. It is about the quality of it, not the quantity of it. Okay. So if you're spending your time trying to do all of these activities of like, going to yoga class, and then going to an online meditation, and then 5 events a day, and that's what makes you feel spiritual, but you're not getting any growth from it, you're not getting any healing from it, and you're not getting any better relationship with yourself or everything around you, then it might be time to reduce the quantity and try to pick one activity where you go with it more attention, more awareness, and actually grow the quality of your practice so that you can get more from it. Bring your full energy and attention and awareness and focus to that particular one. And if you want to do 5 activities in a day, I highly recommend still bringing your full energy, attention, and awareness and focus to those activities one at a time, so that you can get what you're getting from it and not have your attention and energy split to all these other things. Because the point is not to have a view of spirituality where you kind of have some kind of knowledge base and you're doing all the right activities and you look spiritual. The point is to have this deeper relationship with yourself, this deeper relationship with what is life and what are the mysteries of life I'm trying to solve, right? What am I seeking? I'm seeking some kind of deeper knowledge of myself and all that. So, just spending even 5 minutes a day where it's just you having a relationship with yourself, and you're giving yourself an opportunity to examine yourself, to get insights from yourself, where there's not other interactions and other distractions, can be a very quality practice. If in between, the alarm that I get up to and the alarm I have to get out of bed on, the 5 minutes there, that could be a time spent where before anyone else is calling on you, before anything else is demanding your energy and attention, you are giving yourself that energy and attention. Okay. And the more we do this kind of thing, of course, the more you're going to accelerate your progress, because you're giving yourself the opportunity for those insights. Going to a lot of spiritual activities while your energy is split and your attention and focus is split and you don't really have the opportunity to truly listen to yourself is not going to accelerate your progress on your path, because the information might be coming at you from that being in that spiritual surround, but you won't be able to hear it because your energy isn't there in the present moment with it, right? You need to spend time just in the present moment with yourself, allowing the wisdom of that present moment to give you information. And we are often scattered in the future, in the past, worrying about things, in the other room, worrying about things, across town, worrying about what's going on over there. We're all over the place. If we can give ourselves 5 minutes collected with ourselves and get some of the wisdom of that moment, that will accelerate our progress. So I kind of just went over this, but basically how to practice, how to have a spiritual practice. Set an intention to spend time with yourself, including your healing, your growth, and improving your relationship to yourself or anything else. So maybe, on one day a week, you have 10 minutes, and that day you're going to focus on your healing, right? What is going on in my life that I feel like I need healing for? And I'm going to give attention and intention and focus to that for 10 minutes. And I'm going to look at what can be brought to me, what can be changed, what can I do differently this week? Where are the wounds that feel impossible? What help can I seek out? Those kinds of things. And maybe then a week later, you spend 10 minutes going, okay, what changed? Where am I at with this healing? What action did I take? What changes happened? Or maybe I spend that 10 minutes looking at, what do I want to grow this week? How do I want to grow? What do I want to expand in myself? Where do I have a talent that I'd like to experience in other areas of my life? Where do I have a talent that I haven't yet explored that I'd like to give time and attention to so I can grow it? Where do I have a negative relationship with myself? Where am I internally talking to myself in a way that's not so nice that I'd like to make a change, right? And I'd like to improve this part of myself. So even if we're just, setting an intention to do that for 10 minutes and then reviewing it for 10 minutes at the end of the week, it's not going to be as accelerated as if we were to do it 10 minutes a day. But it's still going to give us an opportunity to accelerate it more than if we mindlessly went through every week, week after week, never once touching on it, right? So the acceleration of your path is entirely up to you, and there's no wrong answer there. What you can give is what you can give, and the more you give, maybe the first thing you do is, how do I start having a spiritual practice? I spend 10 minutes thinking about, I'd like to have a spiritual practice. What are the ideas I can come up with? What are the insights I can get? How can I start incorporating a spiritual practice in my life? What am I not doing that I need to start doing? What am I doing that I need to stop doing in order to have what I want, right? And just spend some time with that. And you may not get all the answers in that moment, but just by spending that time with yourself, you're opening up the possibility of receiving those answers. And then by the end of the week, maybe you sit down with yourself and ask yourself again, did I get any new insights? How do I feel about spiritual practice now? What are the things that I became aware of? And this is not about judging yourself throughout the week. It's about examining, okay, I can see that I get so busy on these days that I don't even think about a spiritual practice. It didn't even occur to me. So if I want to incorporate one, I'm going to have to do some kind of way to remind myself, because my life is crazy and busy and these things are coming up. So it's not about judging what's going on. It's about assessing yourself. without judgment, just observing and going, okay, here's what's going on with me. I just watched my whole I'm just looking at my previous week and seeing, you know, okay, these are things that I don't like, or these are things that I do like, and I'd like to start changing. I'm not going to be able to change everything at once. If I'm so busy that I can only get 10 minutes a week to myself, I can't possibly expect myself to change everything I want about myself that I discovered in the last week right now. But what are the little things I can do? What's most important to me? And what's a little step I can make in that direction? And how realistically, how much time do I need to make that change? If I want to incorporate 10 minutes a day instead of 10 minutes a week, where do I need to carve out that time? What habit do I have to build in? What thing do I need to change to make that happen? Right? You know, and maybe I start with just brushing my teeth and putting a note on the mirror to, you know, say hi to myself while I'm brushing my teeth, right? And that's a big change, because for somebody who hasn't done that, for somebody who hasn't made any contact with themselves at all, that could be a huge change. Just by saying hi to yourself in the mirror every day after not saying hi to yourself at all for all these years, that is a massive change. And that can be the development of a spiritual practice. It can be the start. It can be somewhere where you can start to form a deeper relationship with yourself, because now you're acknowledging yourself in the mirror. And acknowledgement is a component of love. Okay. So staying alert, doing an activity, and with your awareness, stay alert to what brings you healing or growth or a deeper relationship with yourself or anything else. Okay. If you have, you know, an hour a week or 10 minutes a week or 10 minutes a day or whatever you're doing, and you're taking that time for yourself, you don't have to go into a perfect a perfect thoughtless breath state and focus on your breath. Look at your week and examine, where this week did I feel the closest to myself? What did I do that I felt the best about? Did I go through any changes this week? Did I experience any healing or growth? And now I'm going to not only say, did I do it? I'm going to go, how did I do it? I'm going to start to learn from what I did. I'm going to examine, what did I do? How did I do it? And how can I do it in other contexts? You know, how can I learn how I did that and be able to grow it even more and do it even better, right? So even that can be a spiritual practice, because we're fostering healing, we're fostering growth, we're deepening a relationship with ourselves by looking at how we've already done it without even realizing it, without even trying. Because I know every single one of you has done something to improve your relationship with yourself in some way, to improve your relationship with yourself, with anything else. And I mean anything else, right? You could spend your 10 minutes focused on, you know, an object in your room and remember buying it, and remember where it's gotten moved around in your house this whole time, and what's its journey been, and what insights can you gain from just thinking about the progression and the movement of an object about your space and its life cycle and where it's going, right? It doesn't have to be super mystical and complicated to get some kind of insight about the world by observing something else on its path, something else on its journey can possibly teach you about something along your path and your journey. The feelings and emotions you have about thinking about the object on the path itself can give you insights. Just, oh, I have sadness about that piece. Interesting. What's that about? Oh, when that moved from here to there, I had such a deep satisfaction. What's that about? Oh, it reminded me of my great-grandmother, and that felt good. That's interesting. I connected that to my great-grand, and you're learning and exploring about yourself just by watching, something move around your house, right? Like, there's all kinds of ways you can spend time with anything and deepen your relationship to anything by bringing it awareness, attention, appreciation. Those are all forms of love. So those will all count as spiritual practice, because they all will accelerate, and they will all accelerate your path, okay? So I also put on, you could make a routine check-in every morning and every evening And with this, be consistent and curious. Examine your experiences. This is not about judging your experiences. This is not about making yourself wrong for all of your mistakes. It's about just examining them and going, okay, well, what happened? What did I do that I could do differently? What did I do that I want to do even better? Right? If I did it and I made a mistake, is it less of a mistake than I made before? Have I grown? Am I willing to look at my growth from that? Did I grow again? Am I going in the right direction? Is it getting better? Does it seem to not be? What contributing factors are going on? What's making it not get better? What else can I change to get that to reverse and go in a different direction? Is this something I can do on my own, or do I need to start seeking help? And maybe that's how I change. Is I introduce some other, help to it. Okay. So making a check-in is a huge part of spiritual practice, because you're starting the conversation and you're checking where you've been and you're paying attention to where you want to go, and you're making sure you're reconciling the two together, that you're going towards what you want, and you're also reviewing where you wanted to go in the past and checking in, am I there? I wanted, a week ago to be at this place now. Am I there? Yes or no? How do I get back on course if I'm not? If I made it, how did I do it? Let's do that again. Where do I want to go next? Right? So that's what the path is about, because we're on this journey, we're on this path. And are we directing that, or are we kind of just being pushed around and following and all over the place? Are we actually starting to get to this more conscious decision of where we want to go, where we want to take our lives, and how we're going to get there? So, having intention and awareness, how to practice spirituality, kind of continued. Having intention and awareness. What are the questions I am seeking answer to? What does that mean, having intention and awareness? What are the things we want to ask? What are the things we want to do during that spiritual practice, which we've kind of already been talking about? But what are the questions I'm seeking answers to? Maybe I just am spending, 10 minutes a day going, I really just want to understand what namaste means. I get that people say it. I get that there's a deeper meaning. And I want to not just be told the meaning. I want to feel it. I want to know why people are driven to say it. I want to feel that. I want to be connected to those words. That's a question. That's seeking an answer, right? And I might get the answer somehow. And I can't control how, because I don't know the answer. So the answer doesn't exist inside of my awareness. So the how probably doesn't exist inside of my awareness either. We think we know how, but the answer will come, right? Every question you've ever had, everything you've ever experienced, there's an answer coming or has already come. You can probably look back to, if you had an insight at all today from anything I've said so far, you could probably look back into the past and find where at one point you asked the question that was the answer to. The answer is always coming. An answer and a question are magnetically charged to each other. They will find each other. It's always coming. The question is, when are we going to stop blocking it by allowing it to come into the world instead of trying to create where it belongs in our world already? Because if it already was there, and yes, the answers do come from the inside, but if we are blocking it because in whatever experience we're in, only the question exists, the answer isn't there, then we need to go to a different experience to find the answer. So we need to change. We need to create change, so that the answer that we probably have on the inside blocking from ourselves can be revealed. Okay. So what pains am I requesting a change towards an end for? That's also a question, right? I have this pain. How do I make it go away? How do I make it stop? How do I bring it to a close? How do I not experience this anymore? That's still a question. So the answer is still available. It's still there. So expansion. What am I seeking to expand? What do I want to grow in myself? What experience am I currently going through? Maybe everything I'm going through I don't even completely understand, and I just want to understand more of what I'm going through. Okay. And what solutions, answers, insights, or changes happened for me? What have I already received that I'm not paying attention to, that maybe it would be useful to examine? Okay. All of these are valid ways to spend your spiritual practice time. There are many, many more, guys. This is not a comprehensive list. This is just to give you guys more of an idea or an awareness of things you could be looking at in yourself to accelerate your path, even if you haven't bought any crystals yet, even if you don't have a way to light your sage because your landlord gets mad or whatever. You can still have a spiritual practice. I got in trouble for lighting sage in the beginning because my children were like, "Mom, what's that smell in the house?" They were all getting upset. So, and then I tried the incense, and that was even worse. Plus, apparently, some people have allergies, and incense isn't always made healthy and whatnot. So while it can be fun to play with for spirituality, especially if you like fire or smoke or whatever, you don't have to have it. You can still get there. You can still get the insights, the love, the awareness, all of it. Okay. Sarah says, I have to laugh. Same here. Awesome, Sarah. Thank you. I appreciate the laughter because I know I'm not alone in that one. And I actually saw some of the faces laughing too with me. So thank you, guys. We have to laugh at ourselves. The idea that there's not humor in spirituality, right? Like spirituality is like this serious thing. Laughter is so healing. Laughter is so important. So important. That being said, I love the corny jokes and the plays on words and the puns and all that. So I do a lot of that kind of laughter. I mean, and I can laugh at myself so hard. I don't even care if nobody else gets my jokes. I will just laugh. So, and which my kids also go, "Oh my God, Mom." It's hilarious. How spiritual activities and objects can and do play a role in accelerating spiritual practice. So, Christina says, I love to laugh. LOL. My kids do the same. Isn't it great? That's like the benefit of being a parent is you get to totally like do those ridiculous things that make your kids roll their eyes and then laugh at it because you're like being ridiculous and they're like, "Oh my God, Mom." It's just fun. It's like one of the few perks. Okay. It's a perk. Sarah says some of the jokes fly over me. I don't always get it. Maybe I'm too serious. Sarah, that is kind of a thing that I do. Sometimes I will do jokes, even in classes and whatnot, to actually kind of poke and test the energy. And if the person's not responding, oftentimes there can be some like stuck energy. So humor can actually be used in a very healing way and in kind of a like a way to provoke healing or provoke or leave or even just to assess where somebody's at with stuff, because there may be parts of you that laugh and get it and other parts of you that completely shut off, or there may be contexts where you're open and free and it like you get it right then, and in other contexts where you're triggered and you're so hyper focused on the trigger that that the joke can't get in because you're in that serious mode of trying to solve it. So sometimes a joke, I'll watch how it's received to see which context I'm working with in the moment, to see if this person, like, what can I do to penetrate this energy and get the healing going? I might try a joke. I might try a provocation of some other kind. I might try some kind of philosophical thing. You got to get people's energy to, like, if they're really closed off, getting people's energy to shift so that they can receive you in some way is really an interesting thing. But so jokes aren't just for the fun of it, although they are fun. It's also a very cool healing and assessment tool. So, and I see that it's not just Sarah. All right, you guys, cool. I hope that was a little bonus teaching for you guys. So the spiritual things and activities that we were talking about earlier, and the rocks or crystals or sages and all the other spiritual objects, magical objects, all these things, right? They can and do play a role in accelerating spiritual practice. Being around spiritual people at an activity like this, you know, we're all here gathered together. We have this focus and intention. It can be a useful thing when done with that intention and awareness, especially in a group. And it could be a group with other people or a group with objects, right? Because there's an immersion of energy. So even when we're struggling for a moment, there's enough momentum of energy going on around us that it kind of helps keep us all on track. So it builds that momentum stronger. So when we're all trying to get to the similar place, it's kind of like no man left behind a bit. There's kind of a group energy going towards it. So it's harder to go against that. So even when you're struggling a bit, it can be easier if you go to a group meditation of even like the ones where you're trying to do the breathing and the no thought. If you're in a group of like 30 people and like some of the people in that group are really good at it, their energy can help bring you into that easier where you don't have as much struggles, which can be frustrating if you don't realize that. And then you get home and try it and it doesn't work the same. And it's because you don't have, you know, the energy surround isn't as strong to help keep you from going astray or whatever in your thoughts and all of that. So there is a value to it, but I just wanted you guys to be aware that that itself, doing those things, isn't what makes you spiritual. It's what you do with those things. It's how you interact with them. It's the relationship you build with yourself and everything else. And even with the practice itself, are you building a relationship with the practice, or are you using it like an object? Like, is there a sacred relationship being built, or is it like some kind of just object, a tool to use without any kind of reverence to that tool? So, so really getting an awareness of your connection to those things, those activities you like, the objects you like, all of that, and having that reverence and recognizing how it's contributing to your spiritual practice, but it isn't itself the spiritual practice. Okay. And sometimes we do need somebody to show us the way. Sometimes it's helpful to go to these events and kind of learn, have a teacher, and have others, you know, the co people who are doing it with us, to show us things that we can't see, because we do have blind spots with ourselves. So interactions with others, interactions with other objects, other perspectives can give us the things that we might not see otherwise on our own as easily. We're getting comments. Christine, I have to analyze and deep think everything, so it's hard for me to understand things at times. I thought it was me just having duh moments. How do you work with not being so analytical about everything when healing is concerned? Christine, it takes time. It takes practice. Okay. So again, you're going to examine this. Okay. This is a really strong behavior, right? You have a huge momentum of energy towards it, a huge momentum towards analytical, and it's probably served you really, really well. So changing to a new momentum of energy is going to require a lot of intention, focused attention, and energy going towards, nope, I'm going to not analyze this. I'm going to try to let this go, just this piece, right? And I'm going to look at any success I can of any little bit where I have a let go. And I'm not going to analyze that I'm doing this. I'm going to try to find a different way. And maybe all I'm doing is analyzing it first. So I go into analyzation about how I'm not analyzing, right? And you know, there's layers to this. But even just finding those few moments of success, where in your life have you stopped analyzing? Have you had a moment where there was something you didn't analyze? And how did you do that? Right? You get to spend some time analyzing it. How did you do it? What did you do differently? What beliefs? And here's the main thing. What beliefs about the world did you have in those moments? What was your view of the world, your construct of the world? Were you in a different world at the moment? Were you experiencing a different Christina world than the Christina world that needs to analyze, right? And how did you get to that? How did you shift from that, from one place to the other, you know? And that's going to start being your seed of your new momentum of energy. But recognize you're going to go from a huge momentum in this one direction, and you're trying to go into this other direction, which actually you want to bring balance, because analyzing isn't a negative thing, right? It's just out of control. So you want to bring it back into your control. You want to have it available when you want it and not have it controlling you, right? So bringing it into balance with this kind of non-analytical way of being. You have to grow that non-analytical way of being and not judge either or, and be able to work with both. So it's going to take some time. And I know that you're not the only one who has that. So it's an excellent question. I'm really appreciative you bringing it up, because I think that the answer is helpful for several of us, actually. So being immersed in the energy from the outside, making it easier to get a similar place on the inside, because that's the goal, is to find that place on the inside, the answers and the insights and the ability to do these things. The other thing that can do is not just make it easier, but if we haven't done it before, sometimes, like when we were able to be successful finally, like let's say we are trying to do that silent meditation thing, and we're able to get there, we can then examine later, how did I do that, right? I know that I was with other people, so what was I able to do differently? What world was I in that I, was able to travel to this new version of myself and do it? I did it. Even though I was with a group of people, they didn't do it. It was an internal experience. It was mine. So how did I get it? And how can I unlock the door to getting it better and better, even when I'm not around that, right? So having spiritual activities can and do play a role, but also recognizing, I don't have this on here, but creating a space in your own home where the energy is dedicated to your spiritual practice can also help with that, because you have, from an energy perspective, there's energy going on everywhere, there's activities going on everywhere. And oftentimes when we go to these spiritual practice things, the energy has been set up to have that momentum. The space might have a lot of that going on in it already, so even the space has a memory of people doing that. And so there's a huge buildup of momentum, and you can create a space in your home, a favorite spot, a favorite corner where you use for your spiritual practice. And that space will start to remember and build up the memory, especially if you only use it for that. It can also build up that growth, that momentum over time. And that also can accelerate. I don't want you to be dependent on that space. I want you to be able to access yourself anywhere and everywhere you go, even in a crowded store or whatever. But if you need some help getting there, it's useful to have a space where you can go and collect your own energy and be in your own energy and find those answers, especially in the beginning. But even as you accelerate and you're going out in the world, it's still nice to have some kind of spiritual place where you can go and maybe work on accelerating yourself even more. Right? So I don't know if I put that in here anywhere, but I wanted to add that make sure you recognize it. You don't have to have a special place inside your home. It's not a requirement, but it can help. So the people who, have an altar or a little spot in the corner where they sit and do all their meditations, there is value to that. That in and of itself does not make you spiritual, but it can be a valuable part of your spiritual journey and your spiritual path if you understand the usefulness and intention and work with it, okay? Also, just to bring out too, objects carrying an energy. They will carry an energy. So like if it's about a spiritual object, like a crystal or, a statue of somebody you like to work with or whatever, they can sometimes, if we can still contact these things without the physical object, but sometimes because we're physical beings in a physical body, sometimes it's much easier when we have something physical to act as that bridge of contact to the otherworldly version of these things. So it's okay to use those objects in that way, recognizing you're building a relationship and a reverence and not treating it like a tool or an object that's there to do your bidding. So I just want to clarify that from a shamanism perspective, which is my background. From a shamanism perspective, everything has a soul. Everything we're building a relationship with. And it's not, although there are people who think in shamanism you're supposed to control the spirits and demand that they do your bidding. And that's not at all what I'm taught. That's not at all what I practice. And it's not at all what I teach people to practice. It's about developing that reverence and that relationship so that when you make a request from that object, that it responds because you have the relationship, just as you would your best friend, right? There's a reference there that when you have a need, your friend responds because you've built that relationship, that trust. And it would work the other direction. If you're holding your crystal and it's like, hey, I need you to go touch that thing over there because the crystal wants to do something, and you're willing, and you go listen, and you're like, oh, okay. And you touch, you know, or the crystal's like, I want to go sit on that ledge over there. And you're like, okay. And you offer your service to the crystal as much as it offers service to you, because you've built that relationship, and it's not about it being an object to do your bidding, right? So I just wanted to clarify that as well. So how to accelerate your journey. And this is the part where, you know, I think that's pretty much what I had to share with you guys on all of that subject. But for those of you who don't know me, I teach some weekly classes that are designed to help accelerate and grow your spiritual path. So does anyone, I know a lot of you are already in them, so I don't have to talk about it. Is anyone here interested in learning more about that and want to know more about that? Feel free to like pop in, and because I don't want to like talk about it if you guys don't want to hear about it. But okay, I saw Jennifer. I saw you. I don't know if anyone else raised your hand, but so if you don't want to hear about it or you already know about it, what I'll do is I'll take questions now if people have questions. And that way the people who don't want to hear about that, they can sign off and you don't have to hear about it. But does anyone have any questions you want to ask or pop in with? Go ahead and I'm gonna change views for a minute. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone jump in and need any questions. So I'm just going to go ahead and go back to here. Okay, so the weekly classes that I have, and maybe this would be useful for even people who are in them, how they accelerate your path is that they're regular and ongoing. So they're consistent. Like we have no start point, no end point. The classes are just regular, ongoing every week, an opportunity to connect with a teacher, with other people, other students who are kind of doing that momentum of the same thing at the same time. So that can help make it easier to do some of that examination. It's always new topics every single time, although we're all doing the same things. We're trying to heal, we're trying to grow, we're trying to deepen our relationship with ourselves and deepen our relationship with others. It's all about that. So it's really only one class over and over and over again. And yet every class has a new topic, and it's about growth. It's about expanding yourself. It's about being able to get your life more on target. So having a teacher, having a guide, not being alone on your journey. I don't know how many of you do the dabbling thing that I did, where I was bouncing around and dabbling and trying to find some kind of semblance of Jennifer's like me. Right? I get it, because I spent 2.5 years doing that, right? And it's like it can be so frustrating. You find a teaching here, you watch a YouTube video here, and you try to use it, and then something doesn't work, and you have nobody to ask or figure it out, or it works for a while, and then suddenly you get to an insight where it feels very painful, and you're like, how can this be right? It doesn't make sense, right? And you need clarity, right? So getting help, finding answers, and help staying on target with your path, right? And then also done for you healing. In every single class, I do energy work to help clear the things that got brought up in class. So not only are you accelerating your path through your own examination, you're getting a high level blast of somebody who's already done some of that stuff to clear it out faster for you. Which, if you're like me in the beginning, where I wanted everything fast, I wanted it now, I wanted to grow, I wanted to have all my powers, I wanted to have all this, like all this stuff. That really is the path to that, is having somebody to help you with those, having the acceleration of your clearing of your blocks, right? And I'm not saying it's required or necessary, because all I've talked about today is how you can accelerate your path on your own. You absolutely can accelerate your path on your own. You can do all of that. So I'm not trying to say like you have to have all of these things right here, right now, or else you're screwed. You are not. It is only about you getting those connections to yourself. And you can do that in any activity. But this is just about helping you get on an even more accelerated way, right? Like you could start watching YouTube videos on how to play guitar and watch them like once a day or whatever. But if you really want it, you could actually go, find a super supreme master guitarist and have them sit with you, for hours a day and play, and you would probably get a lot better, a lot quicker than trying to, like, I say that example because my daughters have learned guitar on YouTube and internet, and it's fabulous. So I don't knock it. But there's a choices we can make that will help us accelerate, and then there's other choices that we can like supercharge, like, right? And if you're like me, I'm kind of crazy in the supercharged kind of way when it comes to shamanism, when it comes to the mysteries of life and all that. There's other things that I'm like, I'll figure it out on my own. But when it comes to this, that's my passion. I'm like, I want it all, and I want it now, right? So it's an opportunity to get there. Now, granted, you're going to come to the class and you're like, all right, I want it all and I want it now. There's a reason why these classes are ongoing, because your practice will be ongoing. There is not going to be like an end point of today I've made it and that is it. Now, there's going to be lots of todays. I've experienced so many todays where I'm like, today I've made it, right? Because I remember the thing I got today, I remember wanting it so bad so long ago. And that's part of this journey, is you start to learn, oh, that thing I wanted, I got it today, right? But there's so many things I want. So there's going to be more todays. There's going to be more, I got it, today's the day, right? So, so what does it entail is 2 classes a week. I offer 2 different classes a week. They're different running series. Mondays, we have 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which seems to work really well for people in the States who have jobs and can show up after work. A lot of you guys are not in my time zone, so it's even later at night for you. And y'all have to do the math, because there's so many different time zones here that I don't need to name them all. But essentially, like Eastern time, it's 7 to 9. And so that seems to work well for that. But then I wanted to make sure I met the needs of the people who are in the time zones where they're in bed at that time, like in Europe. So we also have Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that is evening time for those of you over on the other continent. So hopefully there's a time that fits for you guys. I know some people are able to make it to both, and that's amazing. I know some people here who can't make it to either live, and that's okay, because we do have the live interactions in Zoom, and that's the amazing part of it, is this live interaction. So I wanted to create a way for the people who can only watch the replays to also have the live interaction. And with the help of some of the early students, we got this idea of a private Facebook group where that can take place. And so now there's a Facebook group where, you watch a class, you can go, there's a thread in the Facebook group for every single class. So you have an insight come and you want to share it, you can post it on and interact. And I will go in there every few days and respond to everything. So your posts do not get ignored. You will get interaction with me, even if you're not able to make it to the live class. Although, if you never make it to the live class, I still want to see you face to face sometimes. So we have to figure something out. Because I like to interact and meet y'all. So, and every class is a different topic designed to be a standalone or part of a series. So if you're not somebody who wants to do them all right now, but you're looking at the list of topics and you're like, that one sounds good, and every month, Mondays are a series, 4 weeks of the same series, different topics each week. But if you're on week 3 and you're just joining and you're like, what if I haven't watched week 1 and week 2 yet? Or what if I only want to do this one? That's perfectly okay. They're designed to be integrated with each other, but they're also designed to be standalone. If there's one that really stands out for you and maybe that's all you need right now, that is perfectly okay. Also, they're not time dependent. So if you're joining me now and it's June, we're about to start June topics, okay? And you are going, okay, I liked June, and start in July, you're like, wow, that was really amazing. I want to go back and watch March. Is that okay? Yes, it is absolutely okay. They're not linearly, there is a linearity to it just because we're in linear time. So there's a bit of a progression that goes as we evolve and whatnot, but they're not designed to be where you have to have, it's not math class where if you didn't learn the concept in the first week, you're kind of messed up for the rest of the year. It's not like math, I promise you. You will get something out of it by going out of order as much as you, and in fact, the order you need, if you're working with your guidance, might be different than the order that they're presented if you're going back and watching recordings. And sometimes there might be one, I know some of you will go back to the same one and watch it over and over again. So there's unlimited replay available on whichever classes you end up signing up for and buying, unlimited replays for that class. So even if you got something out of it and you're like, I need to watch this every month, right? It's available. And that's something new we added too, based on people's feedback, is originally the replays were only available for 1 week, and now they're available for you all the time. So I was wanting to create that sense of urgency because I have worked with people who just do recordings and they don't do the interaction, and they don't have that urgency to complete the recording. And what happens is they don't end up getting the value out of it, and they kind of think they're doing spiritual stuff, but they end up not. And I look at the energy of that, and that wasn't a good place as a teacher for me to see what it was doing to these students. So I had kind of said, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to say, you need to interact with me live, or this isn't going to work. But what I've noticed with this new group and this new kinds of ways we're doing it is everyone is interacting with me, but not everyone's available. And sometimes people are interacting with me so much they actually want to watch the replays over and over, and there's engagement. And there's a huge difference in your acceleration of your journey when you have engagement, and when you get stuck, you come and you ask your questions rather than just trying to figure everything out on your own. So I put all the replays available all the time. And what I want interaction and engagement. If you're stuck, if something you're watching gets you triggered, doesn't make sense, put it in the Facebook group, contact me. Let's figure it out. Let's help you get through that block. You're not alone. These are designed to make you not alone on your journey, right? So let that interaction take place. Okay, that's what I want from it. That's the replays I want available, not so that you can collect information for your some days, but when you get to that replay, allowing it to affect your life. That is your teaching for that day. Whatever came up for you is your teaching for that day. And I guarantee you, everyone who has that class has a different class because their life experience is being brought to the class. And so it is a different class for a different person every single time. Right? And everyone in the class is getting a different class. And you will hear it because in the live classes, when we interact, I will ask people what they're getting, how they're doing. And you will, even if you're watching the replay, you will hear everyone going through their own story and their own pain and whatever they're working on in their own life that day. And some of it might even be relevant to you. And some of the things I say to them might be relevant to you because we all have some stuff that's connected, right? But a different version or a different perspective or a different view. So it gives us a lot of different views. That interaction is really, really a cool part of these things. So I have the link on here. I'm going to try and give you guys the slides. I haven't done a version to download, but I'll get them to you in an email or something later. So, so that you guys have that. And if you all want to sign up, I will make sure to send the link in the chat box here too. I'll get that to you guys before the end. Okay. So today, just really quick here in 40 minutes, people who have signed up for the weekly classes, I decided to do a fun free class today in the Facebook group. So the classes that are part of the weekly classes are paid, they're online. But anyone who's the access to the website is completely free. So it doesn't, you don't have to pay anything to get to the website to view all the classes, to see what's coming up. You just have to click, we'll just give you the link, you sign up with your email and it gives you access to that. You can join the Facebook page. And today on the Facebook, it's not a page, it's a group. And in the group today, I'm going to be doing a live stream here in 40 minutes. And we're going to do kind of a silent class of the wisdom of the sloth. And I'm literally going to be just bringing forward the energy of the sloth to share the wisdom, and we can interact and get some insights or whatever we get. Just experiencing the energy of the sloth and having that relationship building opportunity. So it's for fun, it's free, and you're welcome to join. You got to get into that Facebook group to do it today. So anyone who needs help getting there, there's going to be an email. Those of you who already signed up for the weekly classes, an email is going to go out in just a few as soon as we're done here. And there's going to be an email that goes out right at the time with the link. Any of you who haven't signed up yet and want to contact me and make sure that you get it, well, I'll make sure that you get in. Okay? Says I want you to be able to be there. So. So prices, what are the prices of the classes, in case anyone of you are wondering. The access to the website and Facebook group is free. Any live classes that I do, any Facebook lives, today's the first one. If I do any more of those in the future, those are always available free. And I will always give you a heads up in the Facebook group, maybe in an email, that I'm going to be doing a live in Facebook. I might even pop in and surprise you guys sometimes with no warning because I'm crazy, but and because I just do random things like that. And I'm not always perfect with my emailer. But anyway, so the classes that are live in Zoom that happen on Mondays and Wednesdays, $20 drop-in rate, and the replays are unlimited. $100 monthly access to all weekly classes. So pretty much once you go to 5 classes, the rest are free for the month. So, and past months are also available. So if you end up liking it, past month available. Your first class is always free. If you want to check it out, you don't want to pay yet because you don't know if it's really what you want, that's okay. So you can either choose a replay or show up live on one of the live days and check it out. See if it's actually what you want or what you need right now. It may be too much. It may be not what you're looking for right now. And that's perfectly okay. You can still have free access to everything. You can still go to the free classes and enjoy the group. And then maybe when you feel inspired and you want to rejoin, you can. Or you can completely unsubscribe and disown me and be like, what the hell was I thinking? And that's okay too. There's no requirements there. So I will take questions really, really quick. I want to make sure we have time to get, over to that class, and I have time to make sure people who need links get links and stuff. So I want to wrap up here in just a few minutes. So I'll just take any questions on the spiritual path, any questions on the level of your spiritual path, or any questions on spiritual practice from today. Rosa, I know you have one, so go ahead.
Yes. When you were talking about building your relationship with spiritual tools, I've been doing that. I've been talking to them and all that stuff and building that relationship. But I had a weird vision, which I was kind of curious. So I thought maybe I should just ask about it. I saw somebody laying in a bed and it was dark and they was scared. And I can only see one eye. The other eye was covered by their blanket because they pulled their blanket up because they were scared. They were laying in bed scared. And their eye was glowing. I want to say yellow or silver. It was glowing, some sort of metallic yellow color. But anyway, I said, okay, well, what are you scared of? I said, what is this darkness about? So I turned the light on. And when I did, they turned into a robot and they started walking around like a robot. And I thought, what the heck does that have to do with the crystals that she was just talking about?
Okay, so this is a vision you got while I was talking about the crystal?
Yep.
Does it seem like it's connected to the crystal, or does it seem like it might be something else?
The only I think maybe is related to, because I could feel the energy in this group. You were sending energy, and it felt very strong. It actually was kind of putting me to sleep. And I thought maybe it's just that. Maybe it's related to just that.
It's possible. It doesn't feel as connected to the crystal to me.
Okay.
It seems like it's just something that you were interacting with at that moment, and so it was a coincidence of timing, but not because there's no coincidence, but there was some insight or some kind of something that was coming towards you. There's more to explore there, obviously, but you might also just ask your team to bring some clarity to that and to heal anything that needs to be healed in regard to it, because it doesn't necessarily feel like something useful to spend a lot of time exploring, rather just heal. So maybe just get the information you need to heal it.
Okay.
And if you don't need a lot, if your team's like, we got this, stay out of it, then go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Because it might be one of those things that your overactive curiosity and control is trying to like make a thing, and you might not need to have all the details.
Okay.
And when I say might, I'm just being nicely suggestive. But this is what I'm getting.
Okay.
Because I am not controlling you, and you can do whatever you want, and it's okay. There's no wrong answer. But I am getting that this is something you don't need to put too much effort and energy into, but you just needed to be aware, and you also need to like look at, can I let go of the curiosity and the control and let my team handle this one?
Okay. Got it. Fair enough.
Great question. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay. When I do reading, like pull a card, I notice that even sometimes, even like after I have my team help me, I have doubt, and I would use the pendulum to help me. And I would ask a question like, is this meant for this person? Is it meant for me to read for this week? Sometimes I get a yes, sometimes I get a no. But I get a little bit frustrated because I thought that when I have my team here to help me, I shouldn't have doubt and I shouldn't have to redo the reading. But that happened to me more than one. And I'm not sure what to do.
Okay, so one, how do you know you shouldn't have doubt, right? So there's a bunch of judgments going in here. So you need to look at your judgments and see how they're helping you, how they're not helping you. And maybe your spiritual practice for the week is examining that, right? And spending time looking at, why are you deciding what's wrong and right about your reading practice? And how are they wrong or right? And how is that feeding into the self-doubt, which is literally, making yourself wrong with a bunch of shoulds. You're essentially shoulding on yourself. And are those shoulds useful and healthy? Or are they trying to be more spiritual? Like, are you trying to go through the motions of being spiritual, right? Being spiritual means you're supposed to have all the answers, or whatever it is, whatever conclusion about the world you're using in those moments to go against yourself and beat yourself up. So maybe looking at, how do I deepen my relationship with myself? What are the judgments in the way that I need to look at? How do I not have these judgments? Okay. So when are the moments you don't have self-doubt? And look at that. How are you able to do good at not having self-doubt? When you don't have it, how did you do it? How were you able to create that? What internal changes did you go through to get there, right?
Okay.
So there's bringing that to the equation, right? Is my self-doubt coming around certain times a day? Is it coming around certain people or experiences? Like, what's triggering the self-doubt versus not? Not because I want to bask in it and, bathe in the glory of self-doubt, but because I want to examine how am I making the decision to not have self-doubt, because it's a decision, and how am I making the decision to have self-doubt, and how can I have more conscious control over that decision? Because obviously if we're triggered, it's not as much a conscious control, right? It's a decision, but we don't necessarily have control over it. So we want to examine that and begin to heal. So there's healing that's needed. There's the judgment that needs to be dropped. There's the healing that's needed. There's a relationship with yourself where you're holding yourself with reverence. You're deepening your acknowledgement, your acceptance, your love, right?
Okay.
All right. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, I noticed that sometimes with the question what people ask me, or even when I pull the card, certain word in the card would trigger my self-doubt. When I read the card, it's like, is that the right thing? Is that the right card?
Are you doing readings on yourself? Are you pulling cards for yourself? Are you incorporating a spiritual practice of deepening your relationship to your cards, to yourself, and to your reading abilities? Or are you just going, oh, I have some abilities, I'm just going to put myself out there and make it all about other people? So if you're not deepening your connection to your cards and deepening your connection to yourself through the card reading, then is it a spiritual practice?
Okay.
Right? So
Yes.
getting back into a better relationship with, what are you doing readings for? What is your relationship with readings? What is the, having a reverence for the purpose of readings, having that reverence for the awareness that you're trying to bring people. And spending time with it that way, right? It would be a lot easier to know if your readings are working if you had feedback. If you do a reading on yourself, it's certainly a lot easier because you can examine the information you get and look for the answers within, and you can give yourself the feedback of how close you were and how to interpret it. And the better you get at that, right? It's practice. So we're practicing, and we get better. Asking how to get rid of self-doubt when you're learning guitar off of YouTube, what would you tell that person? Probably you need to practice more, right? The more you practice your guitar, the better you're going to be, the less you're going to doubt yourself. The more you hear what you hear, the more you're going to go, oh, that was good, I should do that again. And the more you don't like what you hear, the more you're going to look to change your fingers up and move them around and do something different. So you're giving yourself your own feedback. And if you have a teacher sitting there giving you feedback too, they're going to hear what you do wrong even when you don't and tell you to correct it. They're going to hear what you do right even when you don't notice and tell you to do that more, right? So how much effort are you putting into building these relationships? And you are working with me. So, and I think that's really good. You are working with me on helping you point out when you're doing really well and helping you point out when you're missing the mark and all that. So you've got that part nailed in. You're doing good with that.
I find myself really hard on myself because like every week I pull a card for myself and certain word in the card it just triggered me. I was like, nope, I don't want to hear that.
Right.
So
because
I
you
put
have
it
this
back and I tried it again.
Right, because you have a relationship with everything that basically says you're going to be mean to me. So you can't see the other meaning in the card, right? You can't hear the message with a loving way because you've decided that you don't deserve it somehow, that everything is mean to you. And so you're afraid of your own reading. And so you want to do readings on other people and you want to avoid the readings on yourself because it's painful. You need to learn how to heal that because that's going to go into your readings with others.
Okay.
Right? So you're going to get even better at it with others when you've healed that with yourself.
Yeah. Okay. I find myself like I'm doing better, but when it comes to self-love and judgment on myself, I'm still having a hard time. So
Well, welcome to the club, my friend. Everyone here is probably working on self-love in some way, shape, or form. You're not alone.
Okay.
That's the whole point of a spiritual practice, right? To deepen your relationship with yourself. You're still looking for the one-time finish line where today I'm spiritual, right? And that's exactly what we've talked about today. Okay. Breaking that mindset that today I've made it. Oh, I said the word shit. I haven't made it yet. Like, oh shit, I'm not spiritual. Like, okay, When am I in love with myself and when am I not? Okay. When is it working? When is it not? How can I take that moment that I got it right and do more of that? Right? It's you're still trying to wait for somehow miraculously you're going to be just good at it all the time. Take what you did, pay attention to it, and grow it on purpose. Give it its attention, give it an intention, and grow it on purpose, despite the fact that there's so much momentum for doing it a different way, and you have to keep doing it to build this new momentum.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to let that be the last of your questions, Sarah, because I'm running out of time, and I want to make sure
All
anyone
right.
else has any questions has a moment to
Okay.
ask. I'll give it just a couple more minutes, and then I want to make sure we shoot over and get the other thing going. You're welcome, Dee. She says thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead and unmute, pop in now. Give it just a moment. Is there a difference? Oh, Denise asks, is there a difference between your weekly classes versus learning to be a healer? Yes, great question, Denise. The weekly classes are designed to kind of assist you on your spiritual path, getting some done for you healing work. You're doing your own healing work in terms of inquiry messages and whatever other tools and things you have on your journey. The learning to be a healer is a separate training that I'm going to be offering. It's a linear training. It's not an ongoing forever one. It's going to be a 6-month training, and I'll be talking about that more next Saturday. That was the one I was supposed to talk about yesterday, and things got postponed. So I will be talking more about the if you want to learn how to do energy healing, you want to learn how to develop your psychic senses more, there's going to be a 6-month well, it's a 2-year training, but the first 6 months, the level 1 starts in July, and I will be giving a lot more information and some play with it stuff going on next week. Next week's, it's not a webinar where I'm just talking at you. It's a workshop. There's going to be some interaction. It'll be fun. It'll be more interactive like Spirit Camp was, but maybe a little different also. So yeah, Denise, hold on to your hat and join me next Saturday. We'll get more into it. If you can't make it next Saturday, contact me on your own, and we'll make sure we have a time to talk and I catch you up on the information. So cool, Denise. I'm glad because I remember interacting with you, and I was thinking that was something that would be good for you. So Jennifer says, thank you, Jennifer. It was good to meet you today. And Christine says, you have to do the self-healing classes before coming and joining the 2-year to become a healer course. So the weekly classes are designed to be in tandem with the healing, the learning your own healing. Okay, so if you look at like kind of a pyramid, the weekly classes are a basis of a spiritual practice. It's helpful. It will help accelerate things. Okay, so the practitioner training is taking it a step further. So they kind of go in hand, but not everyone's going to want to go deeper into learning how to do the healing work. But if you are going deeper into learning the healing work, I absolutely want you to go to the weekly classes as well, because they will have different benefits. They will have different benefits. In the training for healing work, we're going to be learning the healing work, and I will be doing done for you healing around clearing your blocks to doing healing work specifically, but I will be working with you on clearing your own blocks to your life and the things you want in your life. And whereas in the weekly classes, I'm helping you clear your blocks of the things you want in life. In the practitioner training, I'm specifically going in and helping accelerate your healer journey, helping accelerate your ability as a healer. I'm clearing your blocks to your senses. I'm clearing your blocks to your doing the healing work, and giving you the teachings and techniques that I have from my shamanism training, so that you can use those techniques as well. It's kind of a foundations in energy healing. There's a lot of different modalities out there. This is literally could be a foundation for any of them. It's also kind of the birthplace of it. Shamanism is much older than a lot of the practices out there. So great questions. Any other questions? We give it just a sec. All right, you guys, it's been great. And if you have more questions, also feel free to pop them in a chat box with me, or pop them in the Facebook group if you're part of the Facebook group. or email me. And also, we'll see you next Saturday. You can ask more questions then. Okay. All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. It was good to see you
Bye.
all.